so here is our roadmap from financial struggle to independence. First, we're going to define the cash flow quadrant. Then we'll compare buckets versus pipelines, explore the psychology of wealth, break down the 5 investor levels, and finish up with actionable steps to financial freedom. Let's kick things right off with Section 1, the cash flow quadrant defined.
So this simple diagram is honestly the core framework of the entire book, and it's kind of going to completely change how you view your income. The cash flow quadrant represents the 4 totally different methods by which income is generated in our world. On the left side, we've got E for employee. That's where you have a job and work for someone else like a standard salaried worker, right? Right below that is S for self-employed or small business. This is where you essentially own a job. Think of like a freelance graphic designer. Now, jump over to the right side. We have B for big business owner. This is where you own a system and people work for you, like the founder of an agency with maybe 50 employees. And finally, I for investor, where your money actually works for you, maybe by living off dividends or real estate income. So take a quick second and ask yourself, which quadrant generates the vast majority of your income today?
Now, what's really fascinating here is how the vocabulary completely shifts depending on which side of the quadrant you operate from. Over on the left side, the language is totally driven by a desire for certainty. And E talks about a secure job and benefits. And S will say things like, well, if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself, or my rate is $75 per hour. But look at the right side. The right side speaks the language of leverage. A B is always looking for a solid system and really relies on OPT and OPM. That's other people's time and other people's money. And I, on the other hand, talks about ROI, where the focus is entirely on making their money do the heavy lifting for them. It is a massive shift from security on the left to freedom and systems on the right. Okay, let's move along to Section 2, buckets versus pipelines. To really grasp the massive difference between working hard and working smart, we have to look at this classic story Kiyosaki learned from his rich dad. So imagine a village that had absolutely no water unless it rained. The village elders hire 2 contractors to solve this problem. The first contractor, Ed, immediately goes out, buys 2 heavy steel buckets, and just starts running back and forth to a distant lake. I mean, he worked incredibly hard from morning to night. But the second contractor, Bill, he completely disappeared for 6 months. When Bill finally returned, he didn't bring buckets. He brought a whole construction crew. He built a massive stainless steel pipeline directly into the village. Bill's system delivered clean water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and he hardly had to work at all. Ed, unfortunately, just kept hauling buckets and dealt with financial problems forever. Bill built a pipeline, worked smart, and hit financial freedom. So the really big question you have to ask yourself is, are you building a pipeline or are you just hauling buckets? All right, moving right into Section 3, the psychology of wealth. This is huge because changing from the left side of the quadrant over to the right side is a deep emotional and psychological shift, not just a technical one. Kiyosaki emphasizes this incredibly powerful formula: be, do, have. See, most people look at the rich and try to instantly do what the rich do. Like, oh, I'll just go buy real estate or stocks, so they can have what the rich have. But they totally skip the most critical step, which is the be. You literally cannot just do what a successful investor does without first being a person who has the mindset, the core beliefs, and the financial intelligence of an investor. Moving from an employee mindset that's obsessed with security to a business owner mindset that's comfortable with risk, that requires you to fundamentally change who you are at your core. It means reprogramming your entire relationship with money before you ever buy a single stock or property. And that brings us to the I quadrant. This is the ultimate destination, the literal playground of the rich. Look, regardless of whether you start out earning your money as an employee, a self-employed freelancer, or a business owner, if you ever hope to convert that money into true, lasting wealth, you ultimately have to arrive at the investor quadrant. It is only here that money generates more money, finally freeing up your absolute most valuable asset, which is your time. Actually, I want to pause really quickly right here. Are you enjoying this 10 minutes book summary definite books explainer? If this structured breakdown is helping you rethink your own financial strategy, please take just 1 second to hit that like button and subscribe to 10 minutes book summary definite books. Your support absolutely allows us to keep producing these high-quality, focused explainers for you. All right, let's jump back into it with Section 4, the 5 investor levels. So now that we know we need to reach that I quadrant, we need to explore the different mentalities and strategies of the investors operating there. The book outlines 5 distinct levels of investors. Level 1 is just zero financial intelligence. Level 2 is the saver. But beware, because in today's economy, savers are losers. Why? Because inflation is just constantly eating away at the purchasing power of your money. Moving up to the active levels, we find type C, B, and A. Type C investors are folks who just look for an expert to tell them what to do. Type B investors are better. They actively seek their own answers in education. But the absolute pinnacle is the type A investor. Type A investors actively seek out problems. I know, it sounds crazy, but why? Because taking on and solving massive financial problems like buying a distressed property or a struggling business is exactly how you acquire great wealth quickly.
Now check this out. Here is the actual blueprint, the true pattern for financial freedom. It's all about connecting an income statement directly to a balance sheet. People on the left side of the quadrant, employees and the self-employed, generate income purely through their labor, which just flows straight out as expenses. But people in the B and I quadrants, they focus entirely on the balance sheet. They build or buy assets, and those assets then generate passive cash flow, like dividends, rental income, or business profits, which then flows straight up into their income column. At that point, you are no longer working for a paycheck. Your assets are literally generating your paycheck for you.
Let's move to our final section, Section 5, Steps to Financial Freedom. Because look, knowledge is great, but execution is everything.
Kiyosaki outlines 7 really concrete steps you can take today. First up, mind your own business. Seriously, stop working solely to make your boss rich. Next, take absolute control of your cash flow. Third, understand that investing isn't inherently risky. Being uneducated is what's risky. Number 4, decide exactly what kind of investor you want to be. 5, seek out proven mentors. 6, learn to make disappointment your strength because you're going to face it. And finally, number 7, have faith in your ability to grow. Honestly, the most important takeaway here is that action always beats inaction. Do not let the fear of making mistakes keep you trapped in your current quadrant.
So what is the crucial point here? It's understanding the absolute safest route to make this transition. The recommended path from Rich Dad is to actually move from the E or S quadrant into the B quadrant first, and then eventually make your way into the I quadrant. Why do it that way? Well, because developing a solid business sense in the B quadrant teaches you so much about systems, leadership, and cash flow. Once you really understand how a successful business operates, you become a dramatically better investor, mostly because true I's invest in successful B's. As we wrap up this journey today, I want to leave you with a deeply provocative thought straight from Rich Dad himself. Financial freedom is free, but it has a price. And you know, that price isn't necessarily measured in dollars. It's measured in dreams, desire, and the pure grit required to overcome the fear and disappointments you're inevitably going to face when escaping the rat race. So the ultimate question you really have to answer today is, are you willing to pay that price? Thank you so much for hanging out and learning with us today. Once again, this explainer was proudly created for the 10 Minutes Book Summary Definite Books YouTube channel. If this visual breakdown helped you finally understand the cash flow quadrant, I urge you one last time to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more high-quality, rich educational explainers exactly like this one. Keep building those pipelines, and we will definitely see you in the next one.